welcome to G8 Lesson 2. We're going to talk about special right triangles. Now, before we get started, this is not a topic that everybody's class covered. So if you are in Miss Kent's class, I know you did cover this, so keep watching. If you are in Miss Bell's class, I know for a fact we did not cover this. So if you are in my class, then I recommend you skip ahead to the G8 Lesson 3 video on trig, and you can use trig to solve all of the problems that are in the Lesson 2 quiz. So you can either keep watching and learn this way, or just do it the way we learned in class. All right, so there are two types of special right triangles. The first type is the 45, 45, 90 triangle, and that means that's what the angles are. We have our 90-degree angle, our right angle, and then the other two are 45. So this is an isosceles triangle, which means these two angles are the same, and then the two legs are the same. So we went ahead and called both of them x to show that they're going to be the same number. And then the hypotenuse, the other side, is always going to be root 2, square root of 2, times whatever the x is. So here's an example. We know this is a 45, 45, 90 triangle. Here's our 90, here's 45. That means the other angle must also be 45 degrees. And so if we're going to find the missing sides, the first thing I like to do is label my x root 2. So here's x on the legs, x the other leg, and then this one is root 2x, or I like to write it x times root 2. So now that I've done that, I can actually label the sides. So it tells us that this side is 8. That means that x equals 8. X equals 8. I'll write that in blue here. So then that means the other side with an x, that's also going to be 8. And my side that's x root 2, since x is 8, this is going to be 8 square root 2. Here's another example of 45, 45, 90. We could see by our angles that we do in fact have a 45, 45, 90 triangle. So I'm going to label it with my x root 2. X root 2. Okay? So now that I have labeled it, I am ready to find those missing sides. So the only number I have here on a side is 10. So that tells me that 10 is going to equal our x root 2. Now, if I want to find out what just x is by itself, there's this root 2 in the way. So I have like a little equation here I can solve for x. So I'm going to divide both sides by square root of 2. By square root of 2. So then our answer for x is going to be 10 divided by the square root of 2. And that is our missing side, x. Now, a lot of times teachers are going to have you do what's called rationalizing the denominator. So that means you're going to multiply it by the radical part on the top and the bottom. So, like if I multiply this by root 2 on the bottom and root 2 on the top, sorry, it's a little hard to see in yellow, but we would end up with 10 root 2 over, and then square root of 2 times square root of 2 is just 2. So you might see your answer written like this. And that's going to be the length of both of those sides that are labeled x. The other type of special right triangle we have is the 30, 60, 90 triangle. And again, it refers to the angles. So we have our 90-degree angle. The other two angles are 30 and 60. And on here, you could see the pattern for these kind of sides. It's a little trickier. The shortest side, the side between the 60 and the 90, is always going to be x. The hypotenuse, the side across from the 90-degree angle, is going to be twice that much, so we can call it 2x. And then the other side, between the 30 and the 90, is going to be root 3 times x, or you might see it written x times root 3. That's the same thing. So we can use that pattern again to find missing sides. So here we have a triangle. I see a 90-degree angle, a 60-degree angle. That means my other one must be 30 degrees. It's a 30, 60, 90 triangle. So just like we did with the other type, I'm going to label the pattern first. The short side between the 60 and 90 is going to be x. The hypotenuse across from the right angle is 2x. And then the side between the 30 and the 90 is going to be x root 3. So now I'm ready to actually find these missing sides. So I don't know what x is, but I do know over here that 2x equals 20. So I'm going to write that down like a little equation. 2x equals 20. And if we solve that equation, divide by 2 on both sides, we end up with x equals 10. And that's going to help me label my other sides once I find x. So over here, this side is x, which means it's 10. And this side is x root 3, which means it's 10 root 3. Voila! Here's another example of 30, 60, 90. Again, I'm going to start by labeling my angles. So we have our 30 and a 90, so I put a 60 in there. Now I'm going to label the pattern of the sides. My shortest side is always going to be x. My hypotenuse is 2x. And the side between the 30 and the 90 is x square root 3. So now I'm going to switch colors and we're going to find those sides. So the side that I have a number on, 5, hey, that's my x. So that's kind of an easier one. So 5 equals x. Now I can find the others. This side over here has to be 2x. So I'm going to do 2 times 5, which we all know is 10. So this side is 10. And then my last side is x root 3. So again, I plug in 5 for x to get 5 root 3. All right, so this is where it gets a little trickier. Sometimes you're going to see more than one triangle at a time, and you're going to have to solve all of them. So you're also going to have to really have these special right triangles memorized unless you decide to use sine, cosine, tangent to solve them. Because on the SOL, you're not going to be given the special rights, just a heads up. So, I want to eventually find x, but the problem is there's no numbers over there. So that's not very useful. So I'm going to start with the triangle that says 10 on that long side. I notice first off that it's a 45, 45, 90 triangle. So that means that my sides are going to be like x, x, and x root 2 on my hypotenuse here. And since the 10 is on the x root 2 side, I'll come over here and do some scratch work. 10 equals x root 2. And so if I solve for x, I'll divide by root 2 on both sides and get 10 over root 2 equals x, the red x that I drew in. So I'm going to switch colors and label that now. Let's do blue. So this hypotenuse then is 10 over root 2. So now I'm going to completely forget everything I did in red on this triangle. In fact, I'm going to scribble that out. Oops, so that's gone. And now we're going to look at the smaller triangle. We need to find this x over here. So I know my long side is 10 divided by root 2. First of all, I'm going to label. We have x, x, x root 2, labeling my pattern. And if we look at the sides that match, it looks like 10 divided by root 2 is equal to our side that is x root 2. All right, so I want to solve for x. So x is over here. I need to get rid of this square root of 2. So I'm going to do that by dividing. So if I divide both sides by the square root of 2, I could just put it down there in the denominator because I'm dividing. These are going to cancel out, and we're going to end up with x over here. And over here we have 10 divided by square root of 2 times square root of 2 is just 2. So 10 divided by 2, which is 5. So 5 is going to be our x. So we have finally solved this problem. X is 5, and it was a lot of work, but this is the kind of thing you might see on the SOL. We'll do just one more, and then you could try the quiz. Here's another multi-step, multi-layer problem. First, we have a 30, 60, 90 triangle at the top here, 30 degrees. So my side lengths, the short one is x, the hypotenuse is 2x, and the other side is x square root 3. And it looks like my x square root 3, that side is equal to 6. So if I want to get x by itself, I'm going to have to divide by the square root of 3 on both sides, and I get x equals 6 divided by the square root of 3. Now, keep in mind, so that's this side over here. I'll change colors to write those in. So this side is 6 divided by the square root of 3. And then this hypotenuse is 2x. So it's going to be 2 times 6 over root 3, or 12 over root 3. And that's this long side here. So now I'm going to come down to my other triangle on the bottom, and it's a 45, 45, 90 triangle. So I'll switch to blue. In the 45, 45, 90 triangle, our relationship is x, x, x root 2. And again, I'm ignoring all the yellow writing from before, so I'll scribble that out even so that we can ignore it. So it looks like my 12 root 3 is going to equal that x, 12 divided by root 3 is equal to x in my new triangle, the blue x. But I want to find this x over here, the hypotenuse, which we labeled x root 2. So I need to do 12 divided by root 3, and then multiply it by root 2. Now this is going to be some wacky number, so you have two options. You can either simplify it with your radical rules you learned in algebra, or what I might recommend is put it in a calculator and get the decimal. And then on the SOL, when you have those multiple choice answers, put those in your calculator too and see which decimal matches this. That could save you a little bit of time and prevent you from making small mistakes. All right. So we looked at some really tough problems. I want you to go to Schoology and try the quiz, see how you do. And remember, you can always use SOHCAHTOA to do these problems also. Good luck and thanks for watching.